Rap Sheet's saying they got rid of a guy who could create some noise.
What kind of noise?
What does that mean?
What does he mean? Does he mean he's going to be a malcontent, or he talked about how fans and media like him so much, and you don't want the backup quarterback being so popular. You don't want the Michael Bishop. You don't want the even Bailey Zappi. It got to that point a little bit.
How about the owner? You want to talk about noise?
Yeah.
The owner's making plenty of noise.
Oh,
we have quarterbacks. That whole thing. And so, I mean, right. Does he mean noise like Milton himself is creating noise? Guys in the locker room are creating noise, or is he talking about like the general conversation around the team? I guess he doesn't specify.
Do they not think Drake May can handle like a good backup?
So look,
is that what it is?
Look, Keefe, not to pat ourselves on the back.
Well,
but
kind of a little bit.
I think we've been talking about this right the whole time.
I agree.
Where it starts with Drake May, and then it works its way out from there. I've heard a lot of the discussion in the last day, plus I heard some of it with Greg this morning, where okay, it's actually Joe Milton is kind of a pain in the ass, and so because he's vocal, now are guys like choosing sides in the locker room.
Which
and
also seems like that came out of nowhere. Did we hear a peep from Joe Milton all last season?
No.
And now all of a sudden, like, we got to get rid of this guy.
So, I mean, look, I think if anybody felt threatened, and threatened in quotes, probably by the owner's comment, and maybe just guys are looking at Joe Milton going, guy's pretty good.
That's not bad.
And maybe that's a little threatening to Drake May. I still think it starts that way.
Yeah.
If you have a third stringer squawking a whole bunch, the guy has no leverage, tell him to shut it.
No, but you drafted him in the same year as Drake May. Now, I know it's a different guy drafting, and that's one thing that is very clear. I think it was clear prior to this move that Elliott Wolf has no say over the roster, or very little say, because he just took him. Might be one of the 2 draft picks that he actually hit, and then Vrabel trades him away just to move up.
For nothing.
For nothing, because everybody's like, well, 5th round pick. They also gave up a 7th round pick.
Right.
The pick swap, so it's really like a 6th almost. It's almost like trading him for what you used to take him last year. So you need a backup quarterback, especially with a quarterback in Drake May who got hurt twice in 2 starts. Or, 12 starts. He got hurt twice. So we got to see Josh Dobbs. Like, he's a professional veteran backup. But for the long term, why not just keep Joe Milton for what you got, unless it's got to do with these other things about putting pressure on Drake May, which I never even thought was the case. Joe Milton looked good against a bunch of scrubs that were throwing the game. So I wasn't one of these, like, he's great, he's the next level. But you do need a backup, and maybe he develops into something. He has a much higher ceiling than Josh Dobbs does.
So I think this all along has been our take, and maybe it's been bastardized, and that's fine. I've bastardized plenty of other people's takes.
All good.
We've turned into, like, you can't trade Joe Milton people on this show.
We don't even love Joe Milton.
No, I'm fine with trading Joe Milton. I just, if you weren't going to get a day 2 pick, what was the point? Like, I don't need the 5th rounder. I don't need it. Now, we've heard a few theories subsequently, like, they want as much draft capital as possible this year so you can move up and move from 38 to late first round or whatever. Like, I'll buy some of that.
Guess.
Maybe that's their process.
Maybe.
I would just say, and you pointed this out yesterday, well, then net picks. Why are you throwing in a 7th to go get a 5th? If you really want to move up, then you need as many picks as possible. So I'm not saying you can't trade Joe Milton. You could have traded Joe Milton. I just hate the return.
Yeah.
And I don't buy, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't buy that he was some giant pain in the ass walking around being like, I should be the starter of this team.
Guys, I beat the Bills.
I think Drake May's threatened.
I think it could be. I mean, it could go as extreme as Drake May said something. Or even if he didn't, is it them reading it being like, well, we got to break this up.
Yeah, guys.
Before there's even an issue.
Guys in the locker room are lining up behind Joe Milton.
I don't know. Possible.
That is possible.
It really does knock the wind out of the preseason sails.
I like Drake May. Yeah, it does. I like Drake May. I liked him more than most going into the draft. But the guy won a game.
Yeah.
One game. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the locker room looks at it and goes, well, we won more games with Jacoby Brissett, who stinks.
Yeah.
We won as many games with Joe Milton. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if some guys in the locker room are looking at it that way.
Another fun theory that I saw yesterday, because we were all over, like, that Drake May angle of it, but if you look at the team, so last year, last game of the season, a must-lose situation.
Yes.
Kraft lets Mayo coach the game, and they do take Drake May out, but they essentially try to win the game, or they at least do the best they can.
Yep.
So they use Joe Milton, a guy who they trade 6 months later. Like, it's not even like you're using him to be like, hey, this is what we have, and then we can do something with. If you just put Brissett out in that game, lose. You have the number one pick in the draft. You never see Joe Milton. And I don't think Dallas saw that one game and was like, now we're cooking.
No, I'll be consistent, though. I thought they had a better chance to win the game with Brissett than Milton before I saw Milton play in that game.
Yeah, but then as soon as Milton looks good enough, they're like, get him out. Get him out. Sit him down.
Once Milton was out there running around throwing lasers,
get him out.
You can sit him.
Yeah.
That is true.
He's doing too much.
Breer had a tweet yesterday after we got off the air. Burt Breer. MMQB. He says, one interesting piece of context, because there was a lot of talk yesterday, Jordan Schultz, Mark Daniels, they actually got way better offers, and they were doing Joe Milton a solid.
That's insane.
Breer, one interesting piece of context. While there were talks with other teams, talks,
okay.
In the end, the Cowboys' offer was the only one the Patriots had for quarterback Joe Milton, so they took the bird in hand and moved the 2024 sixth round.
Are you calling Jordan Schultz wrong?
Fifth rounder.
He might show up here.
I think Bert's calling him wrong.
Oh,
I think
okay.
if anybody's going to
better watch out.
Chuck Nux and throw hands, I think that should be Bert and Jordan Schultz. I don't want the smoke.
Stay loose, Bert.
I don't want the smoke personally.
Thank God at least. I mean, if they did Milton a favor, send him for a worse offer.
I hear you on that, but they only got one real offer and they took it. That makes me hate it even more. That makes me hate it. You got one stinking offer and you're like, great, get rid of him.
You got to do it. That's too good to pass up.
Horrendous bit. That underscores to me even more.
Yeah.
You should have waited with him and continued to work with him and waited it out and tried to turn one offer into more offers next offseason. How do you do that? Drake May's going to start. How are you even going to do it? Preseason. Maybe he'll get in relief of Drake May, or hell, maybe because Drake May's been injury prone, he actually starts a couple more games, even if they're meaningless, week 17, 18, whatever, and you can up your draft stock. I don't think you're going to do much worse than a fifth-round pick.
So is this a Mike Vrabel, we don't want real competition for the quarterback decision, or what is this? This seems like a headache that we can avoid now. Like I don't know why you'd want to do this and why you're doing it now.
That's a good question. So
couldn't you wait even closer to the draft and then maybe teams prioritize it? Hey, you know what? We're going to take, I don't know, Jalen Milroe, or we're going to take somebody in the third round. We need a backup quarterback this year.
Yeah.
And then they either don't get the guy or whatever. It's also a bad quarterback class. So couldn't you have waited and maybe gotten another offer?
So I think when it comes to that, maybe that underscores what we were talking about before. Get as much capital as you can on draft night so you can manipulate the board. Fine. I like to think, and I actually wasn't the biggest subscriber to this theory, but I like to think, when Garoppolo came in and pushed Brady, if you subscribe to that theory, I just kind of think Brady was really good and was going to be really good no matter what. But if you subscribe to that theory, Garoppolo pushed Brady. You don't need a guy here pushing Drake May?
I would think.
Like, isn't there a school of thought that says, well, yeah, this guy's squawking and thinks he should be the starter? That might actually be good for Drake May to come in and compete.
Well, not only that, I would say for a guy like Drake May, because we saw Tom Brady play for so long, we kind of take for granted the health of a quarterback, but they drop like flies. Guys miss games all the time. Wouldn't you want to at least get a whole second season? If Drake May starts wire to wire, you'd be like, I'm less concerned. Less need for a backup like that, and if you want to trade that guy for something, but keep him on the roster for a little bit, because who knows? I go back to the most, not the most recent, but maybe the most the time that a team took two quarterbacks relatively high was Griffin and Cousins.
Yeah.
And Griffin looked amazing first year. Then you get hurt, and then you're like, oh, good thing they had Cousins.
Good thing they did that.
They had him. So, you don't know if Drake May is going to be a 17-game-per-year guy yet.
No. I mean, if anything, we've learned
he's not.
You can't count on him being that.
Right.
617-779-7937. I want to get into something Josh McDaniels said yesterday about Stefon Diggs. I also want to get into an item that we found about Diggs and his contract, which makes me feel a lot worse about Diggs starting week one. We'll get into that here on Jones and Keefe live from the Cask and Flag and presented today by Coors Light. John's in Rhode Island on our running back discussion. Go ahead, John.
Hey, guys. First of all, red or blue?
Ooh, Red Sox opening day, red.
All right. I'm safe. Hey, guys, happy opening day for a home day. You guys are talking about running backs. I love the fact that you guys are diving into draft prospects. What you do at 4 is what you do at 4. I can't control it in God's hands. But Quinshon Judkins should be the running back that they target with their second-round pick. He ran a 4.4 40, which is 0.2 of a second faster than Ramondre Stevenson. He weighs 220. Ramondre Stevenson weighs 240. He's like Ramondre Stevenson, but good. Vrabel was good with Derrick Henry and Tannehill. Obviously, May's better than Tannehill. So if you get Quinshawn Judkins and May, I think you could really get a rolling offense plus, a tackle or Travis Hunter at 4.
Yeah, so look, on Quinshawn Judkins, who I think there's a chance goes late first round.
Yep.
I think he's definitely a day 2 guy. I like him better than Trevion Henderson out of Ohio State because of the frame that he just talked about. And he did. You don't watch him at Ohio State and go, that guy's a freak athlete. But he tested like a freak athlete at the combine.
So a lot of people are talking about at 4, you take like Travis Hunter, and then you trade back up into the first round and grab a tackle. What if Travis Hunter's off the board? You grab Will Campbell. I know you don't love him, but you grab Will Campbell at 4, and then you trade back up in the first round and grab a running back.
Yeah, so that, as much as I like running backs, that might even be too rich for my blood. Like,
so that's
moving up for a running back in the first round, even I don't think I would sign
Probably
off
not. I think I would.
And I might be the most pro running back person there is.
And because I think if you're going to do that, just take Genty at 4 or trade down to 6 or 8 and take Genty and then trade back up.
I would rather have Genty at 4 than Campbell at 4 and then use more draft picks to move up and get a running back. So that I wouldn't be I'm a big proponent of moving up into the late first round.
Yeah.
Probably not for a back there. Let's go back to the phones here. Let's go to Tim in Hanover. What's up, Tim?
Hey, Jones, you're 100% right, man. You know what? The thing is, I don't think it was Vrabel that made that call. I think it was Wolf and whoever else in the upper echelon, because they don't want to have anyone speculating about this kid being better than May. May played decent during the season, but they were surprised probably to see how good Milton really is. And they made a mistake trading him, a bad mistake. Because I'll tell you what, Milton is like a first-round draft pick for Dallas, getting with no cost. And then going forward, they can do whatever else they got to do in the draft.
I don't know if he's the first-round draft pick.
I mean, that's a little much. I can't put any of this on Elliott Wolf. Why would he trade him? He'd be the last guy to trade him. He just took him.
Right. One of the only good draft picks he made. Right. It's like, honestly, a lot of people say Drake May, and this is a bit of revisionist history. So many people wanted to trade the pick. So many people wanted Marvin Harrison or Joe Alt. So, like, not everybody would have picked Drake May at 3. I would have, but not everybody would have. So I think it's a bit of revisionist history, but fine. You don't want to give him too much credit. Quarterback dropped into his lap. Owner twisted his arm. Fine. I mean, Milton was an actual good draft pick.
Yeah.
So
the owner said they had 2 quarterbacks.
There's some wild phenomenon where when people say, Jones, you're 100% right, they actually don't agree with me at all. There's something crazy going on where that's like a tell.
Just clip the first part, Nick, and play that back, and then the rest of the tape.
Anytime somebody's like, Jones, I'm so with you, you nailed this, they say something completely the opposite. I don't think it was
great take about Wolf's fault. You're like, I didn't say that at all.
I didn't say it was Wolf at all.
The opposite of that.
So I thought what he was going to say is it wasn't Vrabel's call, it was May's. And you know who might actually be running things a lot more than Elliott Wolf?
I don't think so.
Drake May.
I don't think so. I mean, I hope not. He shouldn't yet. I like the idea of Drake May.
But established in like 2 or 3 years?
Then hell yeah, go ahead.
You better believe he'll be running the show.
Fine, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But not right now.
No.
He won 1 game, basically, as a starter, right?
No.
He's credited for 3, but he basically won 1 game.
He won 1 real game as a starting quarterback. Yeah.
I'm not making him make roster calls, but I'm also not blaming Wolf for getting rid of his only good pick just so he can get another late pick. I feel like this had to be Vrabel, maybe McDaniels, maybe they kind of, because if you look at like Mac Hollins, for example, they signed him. Yep. He has a relationship with Josh, and maybe he was like, yeah, that's fine. Oh, it might not have been his idea, but he was probably like, yeah, that works.
Mego asked McDaniels yesterday if he has any input on the roster, and he's like, well, I give my opinions on all these guys.
There you go.
Now, I will say this. I tweeted this out yesterday, and people were like, why would you ask Josh McDaniels about Joe Milton? You guys had Josh McDaniels yesterday for 20 minutes. There wasn't one Joe Milton question.
Wild.
Oh, he never coached him. Yeah, no, I get it. He was a quarterback on the roster they traded that day.
Yeah.
He got more questions about Marcus Epps, who I think is like a special teams safety. Yeah. Good question, Bedard. More questions about Marcus Epps.
Marcus Epps?
Than about Joe Milton.
What about Omar Epps? I'd ask about him. Real downgrade from Major League 1 to Major League 2.
Yeah.
You should have paid Snipes the money.
Who was the Epps at Kentucky with like Antoine Walker? Wasn't there an Epps at Kentucky?
I think there might have been an Epps. Well, with like the Ron Mercer's team?
Yeah, maybe.
There might have been. No, Omar, most famous Epps by far.
Yeah, Mike
Epps.
Yeah, Marcus Epps. Marcus top 3 all-time Epps.
Yeah.
Speaking of Josh McDaniels, they did ask him about Stefon Diggs. Here's his answer on Diggs and what he brings to the Patriots.
Steph is a unique individual, unique player, got a really good skill set, been a very productive player for a long time. excited about his addition. My brother had an opportunity to coach him last year in Houston. So I have a little bit of insight into, what he's like day to day. And I'm really excited about having him here.
Okay. First of all, any thoughts on that?
Brother.
He's a unique individual, and Josh has probably heard a lot of venting from his brother about how unique Steph Diggs is.
Well, listen, the brother angle, because Steph Diggs even brought up McDaniel's brother at his press conference.
Correct.
So there is maybe more of a connection there than I had originally thought, because we were looking at all the different free agent signings. With the exception of Big Milt, I think they all either played for Vrabel, Williams,
Marcus Epps played for McDaniels. yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
all those guys did.
Yeah.
But Steph Diggs didn't, so you're like, all right, what's the connection there? It's like, his brother.
McDaniels' brother.
No, but he is a unique individual. We know that. That's fine. It's part of the charm.
Is that a compliment? If somebody goes, how's it working with Jones? And you go, he's a real unique guy. Is that a compliment? That's not a compliment.
I think unique is more – you know what I was thinking? Because I think somebody referred to Casas like this the other day, is when they're like, he's a real, thinker. Like a real free thinker.
Oh, yeah,
That's
thinker.
Worse. You don't want to be like
that is worse.
No. You're real. Yeah, you don't know what he's a real free
thinker means I don't agree with anything this guy says.
Unique is kind of in that ballpark.
Yeah,
at least.
If we were going to tier those off,
if you told somebody that I was a free thinker,
means this guy is
a real free thinker.
What an a-hole.
Right.
And
right. That's exactly what it means.
Unique is like a step
Close.
below that. Yeah.
He's unique.
Okay. Speaking of Diggs, Florio had good items on his contract yesterday.
It's like less and less money by the day.
I mean,
that's how that thing started.
It was legitimately the easiest thing in the world to predict, but it's like obviously the whole contract's garbage.
He's so $26 million at signing. It's like I don't think
it's not even close. Yeah. So Florio says, per a source with knowledge of the terms of Diggs' deal, the Patriots have secured broad protection against a setback during Diggs' ongoing rehab of his torn ACL from the 2024 season.
I don't like this.
The contract contains a waiver regarding his right knee. His guarantees expressly do not apply to any football-related injury sustained by a player while performing services under the contract that, in the sole opinion of the club's physician, which shall be final and binding, is in any way related to deterioration, aggravation, or re-injury to the pre-existing injury to the right knee. Basically, anything with the right knee that the Patriots don't like, rip up the contract, they don't owe him a dime. Also, Florio writes, the Patriots have the sole ability to terminate the contract due to the pre-existing injury unless Diggs passes a physical. He hasn't passed a physical.
Well, remember there was the talk they were going to sign Godwin without a physical. Like, they're like, no physicals over here. Did they fire their doctors?
This idea that Diggs is going to be ready week one is such nonsense.
I was so hopeful for this.
He hasn't passed a physical.
No. They had a schedule.
Well, more from Florio.
The physical scheduled for October.
This means until Diggs passes a physical, the Patriots aren't on the hook for any guaranteed money. $0.
Yeah.
It likewise means that if he re-tears his ACL or has any other aggravation or re-injury in the right knee, they owe him nothing. Then this might be the scariest part.
Okay.
While certain contractual protections exist for pre-existing injuries, they aren't unprecedented. A source with knowledge of broader NFL habits and trends said the Diggs clause is, however, uncommon.
Great.
And then the comp for this. It's similar to language that was used in Jimmy Garoppolo's 2023 contract with the Raiders. You remember that?
Yeah.
Where he
was that Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That was Josh.
Yeah.
So basically, Garoppolo had a pre-existing foot injury. They were waiting to announce the extension. He couldn't pass a physical. They put all this language in his deal, and he wound up getting hurt.
Nice.
That's the same kind of clause that Diggs has in his deal. That is scary if you're expecting a lot out of him.
Also shows you why Elliot Wolf, Mike Vrabel, and Robert Kraft weren't at Diggs' press conference for a big, hey, look at us. Because if they got asked questions about the deal, they would have been like, well, actually, nothing there.
No.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations were pretty high. I was hoping he was going to be.
You think he starts week one based on this now?
Not based on this.
What do you think?
No.
Like, I'm thinking 4 or 5, and I was already thinking 4 or 5.
Like a pup list.
Yeah.
Missed the first 4 games, come back, something like that. Because he got hurt right before Halloween last year. Guys have come back quicker from this injury. Guys have also come back later. Also, what is he going to look like at his age? I mean, I think he's extremely motivated. It also, that whole contract kind of confirms what we knew all along. There were no other offers.
Yeah.
Which is another kind of red flag. Nobody wanted him.
Nobody else wanted him.
You're like, why doesn't Houston want him? Turns out, in my opinion, a lot less to do about the unique personality than it does the injured.
Oh, I think, right? Look, the personality is somewhere on the list, but the injury
that's why there was no offer.
Always with Diggs, the injury has been the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that's purely for this year. I'm sure he'll eventually come back fine.
Yeah, but then to what end? I mean, he's already been in the league 11 years.
Right.
And so if year 12, he's basically rehabbing for half of it. Like, what's year 13 going to look like? These receivers, they fall off